Joey, before I catch your ire, stay with me for just a second here. 2 years ago, Georgia Tech wins the Orange Bowl, finishes in the top 10. They come off a 3-9 season. They're ranked at, 55 and 66 according to 24/7 and Rivals. So the treetop look at the program would be downhill slide, decline, just based on that. That may not be the true story. So are you disappointed?
Man, all the give me the tough questions. So you're right. It was, we look at where we were a little over 365 days ago, coming off an Orange Bowl win. Huge win for the program. It had a lot of fans very excited. Go through the month of January last year, the National Signing Day, and they had a lot of momentum in the recruiting game, and things were really looking up. And then this season happened. It was kind of a worst case scenario where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And yet, I thought the coaches kind of salvaged and did fairly well for themselves in January. They entered the month with only 12 commitments. They finished today with 18. That's kind of one of those scholarship number things. It's not so much that they only found 18 kids that wanted to play for them. It was just that's the way that the numbers kind of worked out. And so I think that's a little bit of where you're getting penalized on a couple of those sites. They also had they had a few kids I thought that were rated maybe a little lower than they should have been. But that's kind of neither here nor there. So am I disappointed? Not really. There were several prospects that were pretty high on the priority list in the month of January that they ended up going to get. They had 4 commitments, like I said, a little over a week ago, in a span of about 36 hours. 3 of those were flipped from long-term commitments to schools that were in these players' hometowns. They got a defensive tackle from Nashville who was committed to Vanderbilt. That was very much needed. They got a quarterback from San Diego who was committed to San Diego State. That was very much needed. A lot of people really like him. There was also an offensive lineman from Louisiana who was committed to Louisiana Lafayette. He should provide some good depth in that position. And so they brought in some guys like that. They also brought in Jordan Woods, who is a upper 3-star, low 4-star defensive end. He was all but gone to Tennessee when they brought him in. I think that was a huge pickup for the staff. And so there was a little bit of a stumble here towards the end. On Tuesday, they had 2 top recruits, like I mentioned before, Finley, as well as Donovan Campbell, 4-star offensive lineman who was committed to LSU. The hope was that they could get at least one of them. They ended up getting neither. That certainly hurts. Doesn't feel good. But it's also kind of consoling to know that they were very much in the thick of it this late in the game. I think that was a little bit of a change from what we're used to seeing from Georgia Tech. And so it could have gone better. Absolutely it could have. And there were several other prospects kind of along the way that kind of faltered here or there. But all things considered, the fact that they came off of this 3-9 season and everybody had reasons to kind of write them off entirely, they still did a fairly good job in the month of January. Certainly, I think one of the better jobs you could have asked for. And it's probably worth mentioning too that they are still in the game for perhaps the top uncommitted player in the country. That's 5-star athlete Demetrius Robertson. There's a little bit of a long story here. Basically, he really wants to go to Stanford. To be able to do that, he had to raise his SAT score by something like 100 points. He took that SAT again a few weekends back, so he's currently awaiting a score. If he gets that score and he gets into Stanford, it looks like that's a done deal, no questions asked, he's going to Stanford. If he doesn't, it becomes a 3-horse race between Notre Dame, Georgia, and Georgia Tech, most likely. All the signs kind of point to him having eliminated Alabama at this point. And then there were some rumblings in the last couple of days that Notre Dame had told Robertson, well, if you don't sign on Wednesday, we're pulling your offer. Is that legit? Is that just kind of a sales tactic? I don't really know. But point being, you very well could end up down to a 2-school race for Robertson, someone who has developed a good relationship with Paul Johnson, was on a visit the last weekend before signing day and was pretty impressed with the campus from what I can tell. And so you still have the opportunity to not only put a little bit of a gem there towards the end, but sign your first 5-star recruit in program history, since we've been talking about recruiting rankings for the last decade and a half now. So the opportunity is there to, again, kind of add a little bit of polish there on the end and add a kid that should be very helpful and get some momentum going back in the right way. As far as what they've done already, though, I'm not super impressed, but I'm not disappointed, I wouldn't say. I think they did a fairly good job, all things considered, from where they started, just a couple months ago to where they finished up today.